On BBC Two now, Alvin Hall's final guide to successful investing.
Hello, I'm Alvin Hall, and I'm going to show you how to use your money to make even more money. This week's show looks at alternative investments. These are the kinds of things you hang on your wall, ride, wear, drink, even eat. And what do all these investments have in common? They have the potential to make you a lot of money. But watch your step. Alternative investments can be risky. Take birds, for example. Really big birds.
I did think that as an investment opportunity, it looked very promising indeed. I'd already found out that it was successful in other countries such as Australia and the United States. I wouldn't necessarily have said it was the investment of the decade, but the rewards that they were promising over a 5-year period amounted to something like 300%.
To me, that would have been a warning sign. Nonetheless, 4,000 investors put down £20 million in one venture.
I thought everything was going perfectly well. Then I read an article in a national newspaper which suggested that 2 of the directors of the company had been involved in previous pyramid selling.
Then in May 1996, guess what?
The fax was very enigmatic. It just said, please remember, it's not how far you fall, it's how high you bounce. I immediately rang him and said, what's this about? And he said, the company's folded, the receivers went in yesterday, we've lost everything.
So be warned. In the alternative investment markets, reward and risk go hand in hand. Always will, always have. This year marks the 360th anniversary of one of the most bizarre investment schemes in history, the Dutch tulip craze of 1636. These valuable bulbs were planted in places like this, the Privy Garden here at Hampton Court Palace, once the home of the British monarch. Naturally, what the king had, everybody wanted. And within this situation were the elements of a great speculative market, limited supply and great demand. Some would even say frenzied demand. Before long, almost everybody was planting and growing tulips. Clubs to buy and sell tulips sprang up in every town in Holland. Bulbs changed hands for small fortunes, and their sale became an excuse for extensive wining and dining. Soon everyone, seeing how much money could be made, wanted to be part of the action. Sadly for many, tulip mania ended in tears. Early in 1637, with the craze on the wane, everybody wanted to sell at exactly the same time. Prices plummeted. Fortunes were lost. People could only sell their tulips at 1/10 of what they had paid for them. But remember, for every loser, there's a winner. And for those people who were lucky enough, some would say smart enough, to sell out fast and at the top of the market, they made a fortune. The smart tulip barons might have put their cash into one commodity that's always held its value. The purchasing power of gold is roughly the same today as it was way back in the 17th century. It's indestructible. It lasts forever, a symbol of eternity. There's a limited supply. If all the gold in the world were stacked together, it would form a cube only 30 meters square. And there's always a demand for gold, in good times for luxury goods, in bad times like war as a safe haven for value. Gold can be moved anywhere, sold at any time. Gold is a universal currency. This bar of gold will set you back nearly 100,000 pounds. If that's out of your league, don't worry. You can buy gold in all shapes and sizes, and the price is set by the ounce.
This is the gold price at the moment. In dollars, that's $395.20, which equates in sterling to £261.08.
So is this what I would pay to buy this coin at the moment?
Well, no, because obviously you'd have to pay a small premium for manufacturing costs. Something like a Krugerrand, if you were buying just a small quantity, would cost you at the moment £264.
Can I hold that, please?
Yes, of course.
It's quite nice. Who's a typical investor who would buy gold coins or gold bars or the various forms that it comes in?
Well, it varies really. We deal with anybody from an elderly lady that wants to come in and buy a half sovereign for a christening present to institutions who buy very large quantities of coin.
So if you had to sort of summarize, what would you say?
Well, always go to a reputable dealer, that's the main thing, because there are a lot of forgeries of coins and bars that turn up. Secondly, bear in mind that obviously it is a gamble. Gold moves up and down, but obviously you have to speculate to accumulate.
And always remember that if the price of gold goes bust, you can always wear it as jewelry. Some folk think that fine wine is just for drinking, but for these people, wine is big business. Every year, the tasters, the buyers, the brokers, and the writers pass judgment on this, the latest vintage from Bordeaux. Big money is at stake, but I detect more than a whiff of pleasure about this business.
People who are buying into wine are almost to a man or to a woman very keen on wine, like it and drink it. I personally don't know many investors who never touch the stuff. Of course, the wine market has its ups and downs, as any other market. The golden rule always is, I'm afraid, to buy the best. I think it's the same for almost any commodity, and it's certainly true for wine. The range of increases is enormous. If you got in at a very early stage on the top 1982s, you would have by now tripled or quadrupled your money if you bought absolutely the top wines.
As always, quality is least likely to go out of fashion. But you can't just plunk your Latour under the stairs. You'll have to store it in a special wine cellar. With insurance, that might rack up to almost £5 per case per year. And just how long will it have to stay there, gathering dust?
It's a medium-term investment. About 5 to 10 years is the optimum time. It takes normally 7 years for wine to be drinkable. After that, it's slowly drunk worldwide. That makes the rarity come into it.
Mm-hmm. So it's really a supply and demand issue.
That's right, completely. It's been increasing over the last 5 to 10 years. But
due to what type of forces?
The Far East are starting to buy major quantities of fine wines now, whereas 5-10 years ago they weren't heard of in the marketplace.
Is there any upper limit on the price of wine?
No, because again it's by demand, and if you get two people at auction both wanting the same case of wine, you'll see very, very high prices because both people can afford to increase their bid by £50 or £100 a time.
But who would pay an unlimited amount for a bottle of wine?
If you want a case of wine, you'll pay anything for it.
It's like passion?
No, I think it's
lust?
Lust in wine.
Power?
No, I think it's palate.
Very full, rich flavor in the mouth. Tastes have shapes. I mean, some shapes, some tastes to me are sort of pyramid-like, and others are round. This is a very round taste. Wonderfully sort of silky texture, velvety, rich texture.
And it's got two things about it that are quite difficult to explain, but they're very important. One is balance, which might sound rather esoteric, but actually it means that it's perfect harmony between the fruit, the acidity, and the tannin. And the other thing it's got, which might sound rather affected, wine speak, but it's got a real point. It's got what we call breed. I think it's sometimes easy to explain a word like breed by saying, well, what's the opposite? And the opposite would be a wine that was really sort of common or vulgar.
Rather coarse.
Yes.
Or as we say in the States, as common as pig tracks.
I think that would be bad news for a wine.
But we wouldn't say it in English.
No, we wouldn't.
No.
To ask a truly gauche, capitalist, and vulgar question at this elegant moment, how much would a bottle of wine like this cost retail?
In a shop would be about £25-30.
That's reasonable, yes.
That's reasonable.
That's reasonable.
Without being sort of over the top.
And as we drink more of this, that means the supply is gradually shrinking.
Yes, and this is where the investment angle comes in, because every bottle that's drunk, there are less and less around, and eventually after a number of years, they become very rare, and then when they're sold at auction or sold through the trade, everybody wants the same wine because they think it's a fantastic bottle, and everyone will pay that much more each time until you see the price appreciating, as we discussed earlier.
Drinking fine wine might be fun, but is it a sober investment? The wine market is strong at the moment, but remember, fashions change and prices can fall. If you want to invest in wine, buy the best you can afford and be prepared to wait 5 to 10 years to see a return. If wine itself isn't to your investment taste, other opportunities might be right under your nose. How about starting a collection? All of these corkscrews were passionately collected by just one man. He bought many of them in the 1960s, paying merely shillings. Then in April 1996, he decided to sell the whole lot here at Christie's. They fetched a cool 93,000 pounds. Isn't passion a wonderful thing? One day, you too could be sitting here watching the money roll in. Auctions are a great place to watch and learn, even when you're just starting out.
350, 380, 400, and 20, 450, 480, 500. And 20, 520, 550. Put a commission bidder here at £550 against you in this room. Selling it at that. Here then, 550. 550.
Before any auction, there'll be a preview. And for anyone serious about collecting, attendance here is compulsory. You'll have the time to see exactly what's on offer, find out which lots are creating a buzz. You can note the suggested prices in the sales catalog, but most importantly of all, you get to feel those goods. Many people might come to this auction and just see a plain old table here. But if you look at it, this table has great quality of workmanship. Notice the repeating pattern of the grain along the top of this redwood table. Also notice the simplicity of the base with its little doweling. Many people would see this and say, oh, it's just a plain old table. But here's where knowledge can lead you to a great investment opportunity.
350. That's 350. Still down here on the telephone at £350 each selling. Last time at 350.
One of the great things about an auction is that you discover the insider prices. These are the prices the dealers are willing to pay for these objects. They'll buy them, mark them up 20, 30, even 100% to sell them in their shops.
People who were interested in movies from the mid-60s started buying these things from bookshops and flea markets for 50 cents, £1, that kind of thing. And slowly, other people started getting interested in it and went out looking for it, and shops have opened up and auction houses are actually selling them off. Just to give you an example of movie poster prices, in the early 30s, a poster for Frankenstein would have sold to the theaters for 10 cents. In 1974, a copy of that poster sold for $1,000. 2 years ago, it sold for $200,000.
Ooh, that's serious money.
But there are posters that if they do turn up on the market, they will fetch way, way more than that. One of them is a German poster from Metropolis. I would estimate something like that to fetch close to $1 million.
Yeah, when we look at these posters, we never think that somebody actually sat down and designed these posters. Are some designers hotter than others?
Oh yeah, Sol Bass, who designed this poster for Man with a Golden Arm.
Okay, so we have Man with a Golden Arm.
Man with a Golden Arm. He also did West Side Story.
I feel like Rita Moreno at this moment.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And this was his second film poster, All About Eve.
When you buy these posters, how long do you think it's before the price will appreciate?
It's hard to tell. I mean, some things go up in a matter of a year. Some things take about 10 years. My advice to people who are buying is, everybody has a favorite movie. Everybody has a favorite kind of image. Just buy something you like, as long as you're buying it at the right price. Put it up on your wall and enjoy it.
Enjoy it, exactly. And as always, when you buy a poster or a stock, remember, it's not always going to go up. To paraphrase Betty Davis from All About Eve, remember, holding these stocks can be a bumpy ride.
350, 380, 400. £450. Back to you, sir. Oh, £450. And front room has it. Selling it there then at £450 then. 262. 262.
One of the dangers of an auction is that you can get caught up in the heat of the moment and pay too much for an object. Remember, establish your price and stick to it, unless, of course, you just lust for that object.
This is Newmarket. Horses have galloped here since the reign of Charles II. But nowadays, the grand old sport of kings is opening up to new and less blue blood. The members' enclosure at the 2,000 guineas is the place to be. Most horses here are still owned outright by wealthy individuals. But recently, people have been clubbing together, forming partnerships to invest in racehorses. Ron Huggins runs several partnerships. Each one owns 3 horses. Each investor puts up about £6,000.
There's no question that racing is a high-risk investment. Like all high-risk investments, there are high returns if you're successful, and you're going to lose your shirt if you're unsuccessful. So I say to all the partners, coming in with me, they must expect not to get a return
At all.
at all.
Yes, amazing.
However, we have actually been pretty successful. Our horse, Double Trigger, was the champion stare in Europe last year. And what that meant was that we, in very simple terms, were able to compete at absolutely the top of racing, although we had only invested relatively small amounts of money in terms of against the Arabs and Sheikhs and the Queen and so on. We do run the partnerships along business lines, so you have to understand what you're doing in order to try and build a success.
This horse, Double Quick, has been a highly profitable investment. The partnership bought her for £2,000 and sold her 3 years later for a whopping £47,000. Everybody loves a winner, particularly the owners. If Ron's horse wins this race, his partnership stands to make a cool £96,000.
Giving chase. Back clear then of Go Eva Golf, and on the near side it's stopped, and Sir Joey is coming home with a wet side. It's Garrison here coming up and
But today, Double Quick failed to live up to her name. She came 7th. So, are you sad?
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing. I mean, we'd hoped to be in the first 6, so that's racing.
Win some
and lose some.
Just like any type of investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now this is where I really feel at home. London's Theatreland. Not a horse or even an ostrich for miles. And round here, you can still back a winner. Ex-bookmaker Eddie Jones can certainly spot a winner. Years ago, he backed 2 then unknown stage producers, Cameron McIntosh and Andrew Lloyd Webber. So how did you first get involved in the theater, Eddie?
Every day you used to pin up the Sporting Life in the shop for the punters. And I noticed an advert one day, Showbiz Gamble. Well, I mean, you have to reply to that.
Was it a significant play that you...
Yes, we lost 200 quid, yes.
200 quid?
Yeah.
When did you get into cats?
Well, because Cameron was widely known that Cameron and Andrew were looking for money for cats, which was to be capitalised at 450,000.
It's hard to believe that, Cameron McIntosh was looking for money.
Well, I assure you Cameron was. And at home I kept a letter in which he wrote back and said, you are welcome to invest anything you like from £750 up to £450,000, irrespective of class, creed, colour. That's heavy money.
Yes. Do we dare ask you how much you invested?
£750.
Minimum.
The minute, and I went to a 5-year party, after 5 years party, and I think nearly everybody I spoke to had invested £750.
And
because
what's been your return on that?
it's just over 20,000.
So you really invest in plays based on your gut reaction to the play. It's more intuition and your love of the
Well,
theater.
no, in the end, it comes down to the same thing as horse racing. You invest in a good trainer. Nowadays, of course, you would look for Cameron, but of course you'd never go on Cameron's list because everybody in the world wants to be on Cameron's list.
What is it like for you when you walk down the street in the West End and then you go to New York and you walk down Broadway? What is it like for you?
I'm in that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get great kick out of it.
New York is my hometown, and like any other major city, it's just full of investment opportunities. There's Wall Street, Broadway, and our very own Soho. This is now the place for buying and selling contemporary art, and one market that's really